Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We'll also be discussing one of the key contenders in this year's Oscar race, the 3.5-hour epic which resurrected VistaVision, The Brutalist.
Bum, bum, bum.
Close.
I don't even know if that's how it goes. How is it? Can you do it for me? I keep doing it wrong.
Bum, 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 I think.
Thank you. Yes, that is right. I kept doing that when I was in Miami with Lillian because there's a bunch of like nice architecture in Miami, and a lot of them are big like concrete buildings with like harsh edges and like cold demeanors. And so we would walk past, and I'd be like, "That's a really nice building. It reminds me of The Brutalist." Bum 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 bum. But I would do it wrong every time because I didn't really know what it was. Because I don't think they play it enough in the movie. But we'll get to
that. It is, very good. I did think it would come about much more because I've heard that. I've heard people doing that, but I thought it would have a much bigger presence in the film. But very nice, very catchy. All right, we're going to start out with some news, and we have some very unfortunate, very tragic news to report. David Lynch has passed away at the age of 78. Again, one of the most influential, consequential filmmakers of all time, ever. Definitely has left a mark on so many filmmakers, not just of our generation, the generation before us, even his contemporaries. I mean, Spielberg and everyone loves this guy. He's incredible. He's amazing and supremely talented and such a distinctive style as well. So tragic that he's passed away.
Yeah, truly sad. I rewatched the pilot of Twin Peaks last night. I'm going to try and finish the show this time because I only got through the first season the last time I tried to watch it, and I want to watch the whole thing and then Fire Walk with Me and the revival. And then I've only seen 2 of his movies, I think, Elephant Man and Mulholland Drive, and I'd like to finish out his filmography, at least some of it. I want to see Lost Highway, Inland Empire, whenever I get the time to watch 3 hours of something. And Wild at Heart is one that I want to see because of Willem Dafoe's teeth. And what else has he got? That might be. I want to rewatch Mulholland Drive, of course. And Eraserhead. I want to see that all the way through. Wait, did I watch it all the way through, or did I? Oh, I can't remember. I know I've seen a good chunk of it. I don't remember if I finished it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could maybe do an episode on Lynch.
I would love that.
Definitely very well deserving of it. And there's some missing things. I don't think I've seen anything of his that is in the 90s and afterwards, which is just very odd.
You've only seen Dune 2 and...
well, he didn't do Dune 2.
His
Dune. 1984 Dune, yeah. Eraserhead, Elephant Man, and then his short films as well, which on Criterion, they're on there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Grandmother's one of them, and then the other one, which is about planting people or something. I forget the name of it, but yeah, so I've watched all of that. So everything he's done, 60s through 80s, but not in the 90s and afterwards. And yeah, I haven't done Twin Peaks yet either. So
you haven't seen Mulholland Drive?
I have not.
That's very good. Have you seen I guess you haven't seen Straight Stories. Nothing in the 90s. I want to see a straight story.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I've heard
it's such an outlier in his filmography. It's so funny.
It sounds like it for sure. And Mulholland Drive is definitely heralded as, probably his best film work, one of the best of, the 21st century and everything. So it's very curious to check that out. Yeah. All right, we will also go from tragic news to more tragic news. Again, the fires that have been taking place in California over the past few weeks. Very terrible, unfortunate. We're wishing the best for everyone that's out there and dealing with that, and of course the evacuations. As far as how it relates to the Oscars race, the awards race, it has been having an impact on that. Of course, doesn't matter as much compared to people losing livelihoods and their homes and everything. But we got to talk about how it relates to the industry, because it will start, having impacts on that. So the nomination deadline has been extended for the Oscars because of what's been going on there. And so the announcements will also come a little later. As of right now, it doesn't seem like it'll affect the actual award ceremony, which takes place in March. But there's a lot of the things that build up to it. Like there's the luncheon that happens for the nominees every year. However, that won't be taking place this year. Um, and that's always a big, just like, networking opportunity there. It is a campaign that they have to do. And so it's them getting together with a lot of people that are going to be voting on those races. So that won't happen. A lot of the screenings they do as well. Again, the Oscars, the Academy now has the streaming service where all the voters can watch the films there. But if you have an option of seeing a film at home or seeing it at a movie theater when the directors and the cast and everyone's going to be there, like everyone, including people in the industry, are going to choose the latter option. And so that's also like a big influential thing in these campaigns that isn't going to be able to happen as much because, again, just certain theaters have burned down from it, and others are in the path of the fires, and so they're evacuated and you can't go there. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how that continues to have ripple effects for LA as a whole and for the industry. But yeah, just crazy things going on over there. A wild, intense start to 2025 for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Truly horrible devastation going on in California. Palisades completely gone.
Hmm.
Like harrowing, horrible things seeing online. And of course, wishing the best for everybody that's out there.
Hmm.
We can go ahead and turn our attention now to the BAFTA and SAG Award nominations, which came out this past week. Demi Moore, in both award ceremonies, nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. Jeremy Strong, in both, nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for The Apprentice. And Jamie Lee Curtis, in both, nominated for Best Supporting Actress for The Last Showgirl. Isn't that? Those are all kind of wild cards that we had it been like a month ago would not have said would have been in anything other than maybe the Golden Globes, except for Demi
Exactly.
Moore. Now, of course, is uh, barreling through into the Oscar race now because of the Golden Globe speech. But I think Jeremy Strong and Jamie Lee Curtis pulling up here are also kind of surprising. Jamie Lee Curtis didn't even get a Golden Globe nomination for The Last Showgirl, and now she's pulling up in both of these. Seems a little odd, I guess. I mean, it's just like unexpected, I suppose. The whole supporting category race is going crazy
It is, yeah. The Jamie Lee Curtis showing up there
in
definitely did
both.
have that on my radar, and then in the supporting category as well, Jonathan Bailey for SAG, he showed up there, so that's seeming to show even more support for Wicked.
Hmm.
Obviously, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande were nominated at both as well. But then Emilia Perez holding strong. Zoe Saldana obviously showing up in both. Uh, Gascon showing up in both, but Selena Gomez showing up in BAFTA.
Ooh.
So again, this awards race is just very up in the air. And again, I think the situation going on there now is only going to make things even less predictable.
Mm.
So this will be an interesting one to watch. So next
Yeah.
week or 2 weeks from now, whenever those Oscar nominees come out, I'll be very curious to see. I think there's gonna be a lot of surprises thrown our way.
I'm looking forward to it. This is definitely like a wild card year. There's no like really big name filmmakers that dropped a lot of like awards contenders. It's mostly smaller independent filmmakers like Brady Corbet and like Sean Baker. And so it's
Hmm.
interesting to see them all kind of in competition with each other now with their casts who are of course delivering stellar performances in these more, like a little bit smaller productions, and watching them duke it out for top spot is kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. So we'll see how those Oscar nominations come out when they do come out in a couple of weeks, and we will be reporting on it here or in a couple of days. I
Absolutely.
guess it's the 18th already. Good God!
And some other news: Sony again continually trying to get into the movie game. Their Spider-Man spinoffs are a complete dud. So
All right.
where that universe dies, another one opens up, and they're going to be uh, streamlining a lot more video game adaptations. So Horizon Zero Dawn and Helldivers are going to be upcoming feature films. Now, Horizon Zero Dawn, we talked about this before. There's supposed to be like a Netflix adaptation.
Yeah.
And I was up in arms. I was like, this should be a big blockbuster spectacle on the big screen. And somewhere, someone heard me because the Netflix thing fell through, and now it is going to become a feature film. So I'm very excited for that. And again, if they do it right, again, get Gareth Edwards on that. Somebody talk to him right now, his management, because I think he would do incredible. Um, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to that. I think it's a great concept. It would do very well on the big screen.
Dude, if only they'd heard you for
Helldivers,
Obi-Wan. If only
they,
someone had heard you for Obi-Wan, man.
I still to this day, that's just so absurd. It just kills me. Uh, but Helldivers,
I don't know what that is.
you know that it was like a
No.
massive phenomenon last year. Like Helldivers
Really?
2 was the game that came out. Yeah, and everyone was playing it. Um, it's like Starship Troopers, basically. Like you're playing
I'm Googling.
just some random character in the army, and it's like a multiplayer thing too. So it's you with a bunch of other random players, and you're fighting these bugs on various worlds. So yeah, people really liked the tongue-in-cheek nature of it, and so it did so well. It's going to get an adaptation. So there we go.
Hmm.
And then finally, Ghost of Tsushima is going to be turned into an anime.
Sick.
So yeah,
I liked Ghost of Tsushima. Did you play it, Ryan?
I did not.
It's pretty good. I liked it. It's not my favorite, but I think I just admired a lot of the dedication that the developers had to telling what is kind of like a cheesy story, but telling it very authentically.
Hmm. Yeah, I know it was definitely very well received. Got a lot of high
Pretty good game.
praise. I know there's a sequel game coming out soon as well, so it's the right time, I guess, to
Yeah,
go all in on the franchise here.
we'll see if I get that. I don't know. I don't play that many games anymore. I haven't played a video game other than like throwbacks to my childhood. Like I've been trying to play Waker recently, but
Hmm.
that was months ago. I need to get back into it, dude. I still have not beaten Wind Waker, and I need to boot it up again. It's been like a month since I played it last, or a month and a half. I need to make myself finish it, dude. I have to finish Wind Waker. Never beat it. Never once beat it. I just
You know,
cannot dedicate more than like an hour and a half to playing a video game these days because I feel like it's a waste of my time. When I was a kid, dude, I could plow through an 8 hour day, like a fucking work week, playing video games, man.
yeah,
When I was a little kid, I had nothing else to do. But nowadays, it just feels, I don't know, like there's other things I could be doing, I
yeah, it
guess.
feels like you're not productive. Again, that's
Exactly.
why for longest time, I mean, even when I was gaming, I mean, I really only kept to like Spider-Man games, Batman games,
Hell yeah.
The Sims, stuff like that. Um,
You seem like a Sims kind of guy.
what does that mean?
I think you like creating character traits in different
Being a
people and seeing how they
mastermind,
interact. Yeah.
throwing
Like a little
crazy
puppeteer,
folks together. Yeah, it's fun. It is.
naming them after your actual friends and see how they interact.
Don't do that, but it is a fun game. It is very cool. Uh, and then yeah, so like Horizon Zero Dawn, never played that. We talked about like The Last of Us 2, which will segue us nicely into our next topic. But I never actually played those games, but I did like watch through of it. So I was yeah, I would be plugged in. I'd be in the know about the major gaming trends going on, but I
I
just
can't believe you
would
never played The
never.
Last of Us, man.
I would never be able to commit myself to again like the full playthrough experience. Um, so yeah,
The
but
Last
talking
of
about
Us
The
is
Last
just
of Us,
so good, man.
Last of Us season 2 is
Hell
coming
yeah.
this year, this April. So once again, we'll be diving into that conversation, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Again, we've talked it to death, but they are
Yeah.
going ahead and adapting part 2 already. So we'll see how well they do it, whether they change anything. It'll make for very good discussions, I think.
I'm gonna replay the game. We should get Sean to replay the game. We should have him on the show again when it
Mm.
comes out.
He'll definitely be on the show for sure, and you
Yeah.
can probably talk him into replaying the
It's
game.
a big
I'm sure he'd be
commitment though.
down.
It is
It's like 20 hours,
40
right?
hours.
It's how much?
40 hours.
That's crazy.
isn't it? No, that is crazy. It's like 25. It's 25 hours. I'm sorry. I got it confused with a different game because the Uncharted games you can bust that if you're just doing the story, which is pretty much all there is. You can bust that shit out in like 12, 13 hours max for all
Hmm.
the Uncharted games, except for the fourth one, which I think is like 16 or 17 hours. But The Last of Us 2 is like 25 or 26. It is a big time commitment.
Yeah,
It is a massive story that they tell,
for sure.
but I can bang it out in like 2 weeks.
And we'll see if because I think we're certainly getting another season. There's I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but there's been talks that they're going to split part two into two separate seasons. So if that is true, we'll see how they play that split of the
Yeah,
game. But all right, let's dive into our box office breakdown of this past weekend, January 10th to the 12th. Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, taking the win with 15 million.
it's pretty good. It's not too great, but it's pretty good. In second place, we have Mufasa, the Lion King, with 14.2 million.
Indeed, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 behind it with 11.3 million.
Nosferatu with 6.9 million.
Moana 2, 6.5 million.
A Complete Unknown, 5.1 million.
Wicked also with 5.1 million.
Baby Girl, 3 million.
Game Changer 2.1 million.
And The Last Showgirl with 1.5 million. So people are going out and seeing it. I should go
They
see
are.
it. I do love Jamie Lee Curtis. I like Pamela Anderson. I like Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola, right?
No, it's a different Coppola.
A different Coppola. Gia Coppola?
Yeah,
Oh, I got my Coppolas confused.
you did.
Too many Coppolas. Too many Coppolas. Too many Coppolas. You
Uh,
saw Nosferatu recently. I want to ask you because I didn't want to bring it up in our actual discussion because I didn't want to spoil it. Thoughts on the mustache?
oh, on the mustache.
Yeah, I didn't
um,
want to spoil it because we've all seen the original Nosferatu. It's such an
yeah,
iconic image, and we've even seen the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu, and it's very eerily similar to the OG. And so the mustache, seeing it definitely took me aback a bit at first. I was like, whoa,
did it. Interesting.
he's
I
got
dig
a
it. I think
big
it
stash.
works.
I also dig it upon having seen the full movie. But at first I was just like expecting them to lean more into the original look. But I understand that. I mean,
Gotcha.
a gentleman of that time period and that age would definitely have a mustache.
Yeah, I think it works. And we'll talk about later on in the pod with the Brutalist a resurgence of great cinematic mustaches. Because
Indeed.
Guy Pearce,
Hmm.
that's an all timer right there. That was incredible.
Having a mustache is a solid look if you can pull it off. As a guy who looks good with a mustache, trust me, if
But
you
you're
can
not
pull it
rocking
off, go
one
for it.
right now, Dylan. You're going through
Now I got the full
your
beard.
beard phase because you switch them up.
I do. I like to change it up a lot. The mustache is hard to keep because sometimes I'm like I look really good. I always look good with the mustache. This is great, and I think that's just the truer statement of how I feel. But then every once in a while, I look in the mirror and I'm like, I look like a cartoon. I'm such a fucking gimmick. I look like Mario. What is happening right now? Why do I have a mustache? How childish! And then I shave it off because I
That's
also think I
funny.
look good with a 5 o'clock shadow. So I'll just shave everything and
Mm.
grow it out a little bit. But very rarely do I grow my full beard this long. Usually I will if I want to have a mustache, because growing out just a mustache, if you do that the first like 3 weeks, you look terrible. Having just like a little bit of mustache hairs and nothing on the sides looks so bad. So I'll
Right.
grow out the whole beard, and then once it's full and big, I'll shave into a mustache, and that looks pretty good. That way, you don't have that awkward like pedo stash phase.
Yeah. That's the thing that has always irked me, which is probably what made me just like mustaches in general. I always had a bias against them because so many people in like middle school and high school, they would try and rock these like
Yeah,
pedo stashes. And I'm like,
it's all they
guys,
could grow.
it doesn't look good. Like you have to know it doesn't look good. Like just shave it
Hmm.
off. What are you doing?
Oh yeah,
Um, so yeah, that was always a thing. And then I was never able to grow facial hair very much.
you're rocking a
Even
goatee
now,
right
it's
now.
only the goatee region. Like I still
Yeah,
can't really get any on the sides of my face. Um, but yeah, I've been rocking a goatee for a few months now.
yeah, you have.
I think
I
it
think
looks
I
good.
want to see how far I can grow out my beard because usually it gets pretty itchy after a while,
Hmm.
and I'll always shave it when it gets itchy because I don't have time for that shit. But sometimes I've never gone past I think a month and a half, maybe 2 months, just because I think it starts to look bad because it starts to grow kind of out poofy instead of
Hmm.
like sharply angular like I would like it to. But I guess it's because I'm not sculpting it. So we'll see. I mean, I would like to see how long I can get it. I've always wanted to grow it out for 3 months and see what it looks like because I've never gone that far. And I think the
Gotcha.
last time I shaved was definitely before the new year. So end of January will be 1 month, and then so we'll see if I can keep this thing until the end of March.
I'll be interested to see. You can report back, but I feel like again you're just gonna look at yourself in the mirror and be like, "Ah, I'm gonna shave it off."
I love changing my facial hair so much.
You really do. But I like this look. I think it's solid.
It's
The
all right.
beard thing.
It doesn't
Again,
connect down here though. Down by like right under where the mustache is.
mm,
The beard doesn't connect to the little soul patch I have in the chin scruff
I
as much as I
see.
would like it to. I'm rocking like an RDJ kind of beard. This is the kind of like partial beard that he grows, I think.
Right.
Or like a Pascal, like a Pedro Pascal, except I can grow a little more on the sides, I think. I think I would
Mm.
look good with like an RDJ Tony Tony Stark. I almost said Tony Hawk. Tony Stark, like goatee kind of thing from like Iron Man 1. I feel like I could rock it, and every time I shave, I do shave it into that to see how it looks,
But
and it
his
does look good.
goatee, when you see it, like in those first Iron Mans, especially, like it's so angular
Yeah,
coming up on the
absolutely.
chin. Um, yeah, I don't know about that, but
I think I could do it because I've shaved into that before, and I do like the way it looks. But I think even more so than the mustache, I think it looks cartoonish. I look like
it does.
evil Dylan, you know, like how the like in Star Trek when they go to the alternate universe where they're all evil and they all just have goatees.
Hmm.
I just look like evil Dylan.
You should do that. I want to see.
You want to see what
Because
evil
again, I've
Dylan
seen the
looks like?
mustache and the beard, all various versions of the beard, but yeah, you've never really rocked the goatee. So I want to see
I
that.
just can't do it for more than like
We
4 hours,
we could
dude.
do goatee brothers for a bit there. Again, I'm trying to go
I
for
don't think I
that.
can do it.
The Brad Pitt from Seven. You remember that the little
You
goatee he
you're
had. I
rocking
got
it.
it.
You do have the Brad Pitt from Seven look right now. Yeah, it connects perfectly. It goes straight down
It
and
does.
connects into the chin. It's great. Would you ever do the Hulk Hogan? Because you have the perfect drop down for the
No,
Hulk
I
Hogan.
mean maybe. I just don't think it
You
like
absolutely could.
connects, but like
It
barely
connects.
so. It
But
just
the
doesn't
longer
grow in
you grow
thick
it out, the
enough.
more it'll cover.
Yeah, I just still don't think it like
You grow that
comes
shit
in
out
thick
for a
enough.
month and you shave the chin, you're rocking the Hulk Hogan. Come on, brother.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I
All
don't think
right.
I could pull it off, but
Enough facial hair
maybe.
talk. Let's do our box office predictions for January 17th. It's January 19th. We have Wolfman coming out, a horror movie about a wolfman. Ryan,
Wow.
what do you think Wolfman is going to get?
I think let's say I think double digits.
Yeah.
They've been advertising that quite a lot. I'll say
Yeah.
12 million.
I was going to go towards 16 or 17. I
Oh,
think horror movies this time of year, because they're so rare and few, tend to do kind of okay still. Horror movies in general always do okay throughout the year just because they are released so sparingly and there are usually very few of them until like Halloween type. And I think Lee Wannell has a big following of people who really like his horror movies. So I think Wolfman will do decent. I'm going to give it 16 million.
all right. One of Them Days also is opening this weekend, starring Kiki Palmer and SZA, and also being produced by Issa Rae.
Who you
S-
love.
Such a huge fan of Issa Rae. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
you
I
are.
wish she was in this film as well. What's she
Mm-hmm.
doing? Just producing. Get in there. Um, but it is coming out. Obviously, it's Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, so I think this will do extremely well. I saw the trailers for it,
It looks
and
funny.
again, Kiki Palmer is so funny. Like
She's fantastic. I love Kiki Palmer.
she's so
She's
great.
great.
Um, and then SZA, I didn't know she was trying to get into like acting or anything.
She looks
So
funny too. She looks like she's doing a good job too.
yeah, so I'll be curious to see how this plays out. I also think it'll get double digits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one will win the weekend, honestly, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
say I'd say for the 4 day weekends, this one will take it. But if we just look at the 3 day, it might be
Mm-hmm.
pretty even. I'll say I'll give them the edge though. 13 million.
You think 13?
Yeah.
I'm going higher still. I'm going to say 17.
Wow. So Wolfman 16 and One of Them Days 17.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely. I think you can crack 20 million in the 4 day.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll get that high. That'd be awesome if it did, but
Yeah,
we will see.
we will see. Let's talk about The Brutalist.
Bum 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 bum.
The Brutalist is directed by Brady Corbet, and it was written by Corbet and his significant other, Mona Fastvold. It is starring Adrian Brody, Guy Pearce, and Felicity Jones, amongst a myriad of others. Let's talk about The Brutalist. Now, Ryan, I saw this movie a week ago, projected in 35 millimeter at the Enzion, our local art house theater in Orlando, Florida. And you saw it, presumably, I believe, from the Snapchat you sent me of the intermission in a AMC theater.
You are correct.
I
I
am
saw it
correct.
in IMAX
Oh,
mistakenly
okay.
because I did say there was like two showings at 6 p.m. One was in IMAX and one was regular, and I was like, "Yes, regular, please." And then I found out later when I was going to the thing because the price was quite hefty.
Hmm.
But I don't know, I was just not thinking through it, I guess.
Was that the main
And
reason you wanted to go to the regular theater? Was the price? Because I feel like this is a movie that would be
no,
good in IMAX. No.
I mean, it would be, but yeah, it was just I was not necessarily feeling like I needed to see an IMAX. I just wanted
Okay.
to get that, as we had talked about. I wanted the experience where it wouldn't be, people walking around or servers walking around in
Yeah.
front for my first viewing. And then it would still be like a big theater, so like even bigger than what the Indian has. So I'm like, okay, this will be okay. But again, I got the the IMAX one, which came with. Give me 1 second while I show you this because it came with a special little thing on top of
Whoa.
the IMAX ticket,
Please do.
little
Yes.
poster.
Whoa. You got a little poster. Now I got to go to AMC and give me a ticket there. God. Oh, he's back. What do you got? Show me. Show me. Show me. Show me.
Because
Show
I
me.
had
Show me.
saw earlier because I saw and I thought about it. I was like, oh, it's IMAX. Maybe I'll go for it again. It's supposed to be this huge, monumental film. So
Hmm.
why not see it on the biggest screen possible? But again, because of the price, I was like, ah. Again, I didn't have the Regal because it's not any Regal, which is absurd.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to AMC. I have to pay the full price
Yeah.
instead of just the like surcharge. So I'm like, I'll do regular screening. But I saw that with the IMAX screening, it comes with a commemorative poster.
Hmm.
Now I will say, I was like, okay, this IMAX again, that was a hefty price, but I was like, it'll be cool seeing it in the IMAX screen, and that poster is gonna be awesome. I didn't get it going in, so I was like, when we leave, I'll go ahead and grab it.
Who's
Uh,
we? Who'd you go with?
this is not a good poster. I was
No.
mad. Look at this. So it has the Brutalist, and then there's nothing. And then three images at the bottom, which are in black and white. They didn't even print it in color.
It looks like they printed it on like a regular printer.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, was this just
Dude,
this
that's
random AMC that
awful.
did this? Like,
Awful. Let me describe to the listener what this looks like. It looks like a piece of copier paper with just three black or two black lines separating it into three long strips. And at the
mhm.
very top it says, what does it say at the top? Let me see.
It just
In the
says the
first box it says the
Brutalist
Brutalist, and the second one
filmed
it
in
says
this
filmed in this
division,
division. The third one says presented in
presented in
IMAX.
IMAX.
And it has the date you saw it, yes. It was
Yeah, the
the 15th.
dates and then
It
the
has
names of
the
like the
names of the
people.
people who worked on it in the cast. And then at the very bottom, there are three pictures: the upside down Statue of Liberty, the Adrian Brody with the sparks, and the cliff sides from Italy. If you've seen the movie, you know the images. And just full black and white, just completely like they didn't want to use the color printer.
I thought it was
What
gonna
is
be a
what is the paper quality? Is it card stock, like a poster, like thick?
no.
It's literally a sheet of paper.
It's not like that then, but it's not like cardstock either. So it's disappointing. And I
That's
thought it was going to be
crazy.
like the image of the inverted Statue of Liberty goes hard, incredible.
Yeah,
The image of Adrian Brody
with the
like smoking and
sparks,
looking down at the sparks
dude.
goes hard.
Awesome.
So I thought it was going to be one of those,
Yeah,
just like a full size poster of that in color. I was like, okay, that would be pretty cool. But no,
yeah.
instead they give me that, and I was like, what?
Devastating, bro. That's awful.
So yeah, Imagine if that would have been like the decider. If I'm like, oh yeah, you
I
get a
do
poster
want
on
the
top of
poster.
it.
Yeah, I
I'll
do.
do the IMAX
Paying the extra money
screening.
is worth it for the poster.
So absurd. Could not believe
Absolutely
that.
terrible. That is
Um,
so funny.
but yeah, but the actual screening experience itself was awesome in IMAX. That huge screen,
Yeah, I mean, I
full
bet.
frame and everything. It was nice, very
Yeah.
nice.
My viewing was not so great. Uh, the only reason I don't usually go to the Enzion here in Orlando to see, especially new movies. I think I would go if it was like a date night to see a movie that I've seen many times before or even once before, just because at the Enzion it is like is a very big room, but it is like it's not like a theater. They have like raised platforms and like couches and different assorted chairs, and then they have tables and they serve food and drinks during the film. And also, the screen is not very large, and the sound system is not very adequate. I think it really only sounds good when you're like in the first front of the room. If you're in the in the, like, the back half, it's kind of harder to hear.
Hmm.
And I particularly dislike the service of food while I'm trying to watch like a movie I've never seen before. If I'm watching like Star Wars or something, or like Beetlejuice, sure, I'll go to Enzion on like a date night because it's very cute. The aesthetic is very nice. It is a very good looking theater. It's a fun thing to do,
Hmm.
and it makes like for a very nice date night. And it's like a very nice art house theater. But the problem is like sometimes, and this is an instance where this has happened, the only place to watch some movies is at the Enzion. And the only place
Hmm.
for me to watch The Brutalist as early as I did was at the Enzion. I didn't want to wait a couple of days because I was going to be super busy for like the next week. And I wouldn't be able to see it until like yesterday or today. And I didn't want to have to do that and wait that long to see this movie I've been waiting for so long to see. And also, the other thing that pushed me to do it and go to this theater that I don't like for new movies is they were showing it in 35 millimeter, which I'm a big film photography fan. I really enjoy watching things projected in 35 millimeter. I enjoy movies that are shot in 35 millimeter, and I'm trying to learn more about the process of shooting film and the different types of film stocks and film cameras and film camera lenses and uh, how different film stocks make different images and things like that. So the idea of seeing a VistaVision film completely like start to finish shot entirely in VistaVision and then projected back on 35 millimeter itself, I had to see it because I mean I'm never going to get this opportunity again. I don't think I'm ever going to see this movie projected in 35 millimeter anywhere else.
Hmm.
So it was definitely something that pushed me to go to the Enzion. But that being said, people walking all over the place. I it's very far away from where I live, and every time they do movies like this where people have been waiting a long time to see it, if it's the only place showing it, and they did the same thing in The Irishman with The Irishman many years ago, because it was the only place showing The Irishman that early. It gets packed because the entire Orlando film community knows about the Enzion, and they all go and see this movie that we've all been waiting to see.
Hmm.
And so getting a ticket is not difficult, but getting a seat if you don't show up really early, very difficult. I remember when I watched The Irishman, which is also 3.5 hours, I watched the entire thing sitting on like stairs.
Yeah, that was our first, or at least my first time going to the Indian was for the Irishman,
Bad.
and it was 3 hours. And I don't know if we just couldn't find a seat. I don't know if we didn't look hard enough, or if they did just oversell the tickets. But yeah, there was no room, and so we were on the floor watching that, which is very uncomfortable. I assume
Yeah.
this time you found a seat. Actually, I know you did, right? You
So
just
I
sat with
pulled
some
up.
random guy.
Yeah, I pulled up at the exact show time when it started, which I don't like to do at the Enzion. I like to get there 15 minutes early, but traffic was really bad because it started at 6:30, so I was in 5 o'clock traffic to get there. And I pulled in at 6:30, and I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna get a seat. This really sucks. I got in, I look around, everything's taken. I go, fuck. This is
Not
awful.
again.
I
Not
fucking
again.
hate this. They're playing their trailers that they have in the Enzion, which is really cool because the trailers are obviously in digital because they almost show everything in a digital projector. And so when they transition to the movie itself, you could see the projector like moving over, and you could see the film projector coming on, and you could see them focusing the film projector as it was like whirring to life, which was really cool. But I get in there. They're showing the trailers. I go stand in the back because I'm like I walk in. I don't want to be in anybody's way. but there's like there's no seats. I get in, I can see absolutely nothing. I go in the back, I'm standing there. I start to lean on the wall. I'm like, if I can't find a seat in like the next 5 minutes, I'm leaving because I'm not standing for 3.5 hours for the Brutalist, and I'm not sitting on those goddamn steps again. Fuck this shit. So I'm standing there. I'm standing there. I'm looking around. It's very dark. Obviously, it's a theater, and so the only times I can really see is when something bright is on the screen, like a white light or something of some kind, or like a white background of something, like text or something, so that I can see the bits in the room where there might be seats. And this couple walks in after me, like at 5 minutes in, and they walk up the same way I went, and they immediately find a seat that I didn't see, and I went, "Fuck." Like, come on, dude. How did I miss that? How did I not see the only open table in front of me? And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. The only way I'm not gonna find a seat just sitting here looking. The only way I'm going to find a seat is if I move my ass around and look for one earnestly and try and sit down. And I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? This is the Enzion. Waiters are gonna be walking around for the next 3 hours in front of people's way. I shouldn't give a fuck about walking around and walking in front of people's view. This is whatever. This is not like a Regal. This is not an AMC. Nobody's gonna get pissed off that I'm walking in front of them. It's the Enzion. They're gonna be fine. I go and I
Hmm.
walk forward. 10 seconds in, I find a seat. I go, oh, thank God, I walked, because had I not, other people would have come in and they would have taken that seat 100%. Because more people walked in after I sat down. And I had to ask the guy if I could sit there because he was sitting at the table alone. And I want to make sure I wasn't taking anybody's seat. I did. I sat down first, and then I realized he was sitting there. I went, "Oh, by the way, this isn't someone's seat, right?" And he goes, "No, no, no," because his friends were sitting in front at a different table, and they were just five of them. There were four seats at the table, so he was sitting in the back.
Hmm.
And so I was like, "Finally, I have a seat." Still not great. I'm pretty far in the back. Audio's not too fantastic because they don't really like to blast it like I like, and I've still got people sitting in front of me at the same level, so they are kind of blocking like the corners of the screen a little bit, which isn't great. But overall, still glad I went. Still, I don't care that that was my first viewing experience. I plan to go again in like a real theater, probably IMAX, because it sounds like a good viewing experience. And I will dedicate the
Just don't
time
count on the
to,
poster, okay?
yeah, to watching The Brutalist at least one more time before the Oscars
Gotcha.
in a like very very good viewing experience. Let's talk about our impressions though. Let's talk about the movie itself, apart from how we viewed it. Ryan, what did you think of The Brutalist? I've been dying to ask you this question for a week now.
Indeed, and I've been indulging you.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so I think that it is undeniably an incredible achievement.
Hmm.
Like the scale of it, the scope of it, especially what they were able to achieve for apparently just $10 million was their budget.
Insane. There's no fucking way, dude.
That
There's no
is
fucking
just
way that's a $10 million budget.
crazy. So yeah, I'd love to hear more from Corbet and from the whole team about just figuring out how that was able to happen. Because I mean, it just looks incredible. Obviously, we talked about like the score, like so many of those technical elements are magnificent. I think the cast is also magnificent,
Hmm.
particularly Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce. Like I think their dynamic throughout the film, most of the film was sensational. I thought that was like the real meat of the film for me.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's just so much to love and all of that stuff. Um, however, I will say, I think there's some times where films, uh, and this one very much like wears it on its sleeve, I think, which is admirable, but they have such high ambitions and they want to achieve such an epic scale and scope. They want to be essentially like already a certified classic, uh, admitted into the film canon, all of that stuff. And I think in the finer moments, like the more intimate moments, the smaller moments, I was not able to connect with some of those characters as much as I would have liked. And so while the achievement of the film itself is incredible, and while a lot of the stuff in the film, like a lot of its big ideas, everything that's trying to tackle here about the American dream, the the constant wrestling match that is trying to make a work of art and needing it to be funded, and having all these people involved, the money people, and then the people that actually have to like execute on that vision, like all of that stuff, I think is uh, just great to include, and I think it does handle it in very nice ways. But again, I just wish that I was feeling more emotion throughout. There's definitely parts, and we'll talk about it once we get into the spoiler section, where I definitely It did feel like those gut punches finally that we were building towards after like 3 plus hours. But I would have liked to be as fully engaged on an emotional level throughout the entire film as I was just ingesting what was clearly like a visual spectacle and something that was magnificently orchestrated by all the filmmakers involved. Um, but yeah, so I for me, I don't think it's like the instant masterpiece that it certainly was being heralded as coming out of the film festivals, and certainly for some people, I think it does reach that. For me, on the first viewing, at least, I don't think it quite gets there, but I do think it's like a very good movie, and I think it's definitely going to deservingly get love at the Oscars. But yeah, I don't know. Just on the first viewing alone, I think there was some parts of it missing or some parts of it not quite gelling with me.
Hmm.
So for you, I have also not heard any of your
Hmm.
thoughts on the Brutalist.
I've also been dodging the desire to tell you.
So what are your thoughts on it?
I 100% agree. I
Oh wow.
think I think it is absolutely grand and magnificent. I think it is a huge triumph for independent filmmakers and like the film community as a whole. And I think it is massively, massively impressive and like wows me endlessly in its scale and scope and its sheer ingenuity in the way it is like literally designed. I think it's all brilliant in that regard. And if Brady Corbet won Best Director over Sean Baker, I would completely understand. The effort put behind this film is magnificent. I think that being said, there are some like glaring story issues and some glaring character issues that hold it back for me from being like the pinnacle of filmmaking. And I want to love it so bad because it is
Hmm.
impressive and it is like shot incredibly well. It is gorgeous to look at, and it is so fascinating that he chose to shoot the whole thing on VistaVision, a film format that has been outdated since the '60s, apart from like action sequences. I think it is terrific that this kind of filmmaking is receiving this kind of critical acclaim. You know, when a movie like this, of this scale, of this type, probably would not have been seen or even made independently, let alone with a studio, of course. Like maybe even 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, that he was able to get it done over the last 10 years is incredible, an incredible triumph. But God, I just am like held back by what is like what they're trying to say and what I'm trying to make of it as like this American dream of coming to America, survivor of the Holocaust, survivor of like great horrors, and like trying to change your life and make something better of it. I can appreciate the grandeur of that story and how it relates to the American dream, and I'm vibing with the movie for so much of it. I'm thinking that it is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. I am convinced that it's fantastic. I am like enjoying watching Adrian Brody go about his American life as he becomes more and more embroiled in it as time moves on, as the movie keeps going. I am like loving sitting with like a long. This is the first very very long movie, like a 3 plus hour movie I've seen in a long long time that I thought needed to be 3 plus hours, and I enjoyed the length of it because The
Hmm.
Irishman I thought was too long, Killers of the Flower Moon I thought was too long. A lot of other 3 plus hour movies I think are too long these days, but this one felt like they really took their time with it in a good way. But the last 45 minutes to the last hour or so, I it lost me in a very profound way in the sense that I just don't understand what they were trying to go for, and I don't understand what they're trying to say with the message of that last hour.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I think you're right. There are definitely some issues in the smaller moments throughout even the first 2.5 hours that I enjoyed. Even in those, even in that time, there are moments where I'm watching it and I'm like, this isn't what I wanted it to be. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I'm not particularly satisfied with how it's going. But I'm
Hmm.
enjoying the grandeur of it so far that I can get through those smaller moments, and then the last hour unfolds, and I'm just not as taken by it as I was hoping to be, or even just not taken by it really in general at all.
All right. Interesting. So we'll now dive into the spoilers. So if you haven't yet seen it, this is your warning to go off and visit some AMC out there or your own local art house theater and watch this film, because I think, regardless of whatever reservations we have, we're in agreement that people should go out and see this film. Like, it is definitely worthwhile to go and watch it, especially on a big screen. Get that little intermission. I think that was a wonderful addition to the film overall. Um, and for sure helped out with the pacing there. But I think you're right.
Mhm.
Like, for a 3.5 hour film, like, the length was present. Like, I felt it there, but it wasn't like me craving it to end so I can get out of
Yeah.
the theater or anything like that. Like, it was very well paced for, again, how massive the story is. Like, it takes place
Hmm.
over 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
um, and they handle that pacing quite well. But let's dive in to the moments, more specifically the things that worked and the things that did not. So just right off the bat, I want to give some praise to that incredible opening scene,
Yeah.
like the build up to
Dude.
that image, which is plastered all over the marketing and the
Uh,
trailers and the posters and everything. It hit so hard
it really
seeing it
does.
in theater. Like, that was magnificent. What a way to open.
Yeah. I had issues with it just because of my viewing experience. The
Mm.
beginning of the movie is when the Enzion waiters are running around taking orders. So you have all that commotion going on. It's not as dark in the room as I would like it to be, and the scene itself is very dark. So I'm having trouble determining what's going on in the movie. And then all the waiters are moving around and running around and whatnot. And I'm like, like what the fuck is going on? There's movement on the screen. There's movement in real life. I can't connect what's happening. It's like it was disjointing. It was just jarring. I was like, this is not great. This is insane. I should not have come to the Enzion. And then boom, he leaves the like under bunker of the ship and comes out and looks up, and you get that shot of the Statue of Liberty. It's fucking phenomenal. It's terrific.
So good. So good. Again, hearing it, that wall of sounds, bringing those four notes of the Brutalist score, and then just the massive screen as well that I was sitting it on. It was perfect viewing experience for that.
I can
Um,
imagine.
so yeah, I was thrilled by that, and that I was like, oh no, it might actually live up. Like, this is incredible. Um, and I think there's some other moments in the film that definitely match that same level of, like,
Absolutely,
oh,
yeah.
this is peak filmmaking.
Dude,
Um,
the entire tour of the marble slates in Italy. I mean, we'll get there, but
Agreed.
oh
I
my god.
I thought that was truly, like, majestic filmmaking. That
Yeah.
was that was great. And then I think there's some, like, montages in there. There's no, like, extended
I
sequence of
think the
it, but there were
building
some
of the
moments of, like,
library
the building, yeah,
was
which I
fantastic,
thought
and
was
the
quite
the
nice.
the yeah, like them opening up the cabinets that they've been building the whole time, I think looked fantastic. And then the final shot of him like moving the chair into the center of the light and setting
Hmm.
the book on the chair is also great.
And there was a lot of great, cinematography of the architecture. I thought all
Hmm.
that stuff was beautiful, and I think like, that final hunt for Van Buren through the building,
Yeah.
when it's still, like, not quite finished, and then we finally get that moment. I thought this was great because when you see them with the model,
Hmm.
and Laszlo's explaining how there's, like, the cross, and it's going to use the sunlight passing over it to
Hmm.
project basically a cross down onto a marble slab. Um, they very astutely, I thought, didn't actually show us what that would look like in the
I
the
love
model,
that.
even though he
Yeah.
had the flashlight over
Because I
it.
was like, oh, they blue balls me, and now they're edging me to build up to the final finish of seeing the light of the cross. And it's
Yes,
gonna be
like,
amazing. And it genuinely, even though like I'm not really a fan of like the story elements of that scene, the build up to that is fantastic.
exactly. So yeah, I thought it was great how they planted that seed, and then again, it's 2 hours later that we actually see the payoff for it. But I thought that was wonderful, and I did like the whole, again, just from the visual side of things, exploring that building finally brought to life. Like, that's the only time that we really get, I guess, that, like, PowerPoint presentation in the epilogue. We get some more, but this was, like, really in earnest, where we get to walk through the space as it's semi complete and see, the water, the pool with the columns, the slabs of rock that, like, open up. Um, and then of course that marble with the cross projected down onto it. So I thought that was great, being able to like actually see the fruits of labor. And then I thought on the narrative side, again, we'll talk more about it, but I wasn't fully sold on him being missing and running away and everything,
Yeah.
and presumably killing himself there. But the like everyone just searching through that building, I thought was like very well told. Um, but yeah, so I think there were some moments there of just like truly incredible filmmaking,
Hmm.
and it kicked off with that phenomenal opening scene and that just pure money shot of the like
Oh
slanted,
yeah.
inverted Statue of Liberty. So good, so
Very
good.
bold choice. A lot of bold choices in this movie that I think most of the time pay off.
Hmm. Absolutely. So let's. I want to hear when did so again the opening for me locked me in,
Hmm.
but I'll say I didn't like fully plug into everything and settle into the story until we got to like that scene between Guy Pearce and Adrian Brody when he's handing him the pictures and he commends him on the library and everything.
Hmm.
Um, when did you like start feeling yourself vibing with the emotions of the story throughout that like first part?
Dude, I was locked in from the opening credit sequence when it's just a long tracking shot of the bus and the credits are rolling horizontally. I
Mm,
was like, something about this is like the way that it's filmed and how it looks and how it feels. I'm fucking with it. Like, I think this is sick. I'm fucking with it heavy. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to see where this goes. In terms of the story, I think it was when they actually engage in the construction of the library is when I'm like, okay, I really am enjoying this. I can see like the relationship between him and his cousin developing is an interesting dynamic, and I can see like where the story is going in terms of like how he's going to follow his American dream and become an architect once again, like he was in the old country, and how like those parts of him are not lost, and he's still engaging in his art, and he's still like a master of what he does, and I just
hmm.
enjoy seeing him thrive and fully uh, indulge in that artistic side of him, even after such horror in his life and such like chaos and terribleness. He's still like an artistic human being who can deliver 100% on whatever it is he needs to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, for I was intrigued by that whole cousin section, but I wasn't invested
Hmm.
really. And then I thought it was interesting as well that yeah they have that moment and then the cousin has that conversation with them and it's like you need to go,
Yeah, that
and
part I
then
wasn't a big fan of because
they're gone from the story from
I
there
was
on
like,
out.
bro, what did the wife lie? Did he actually make a pass at her? I don't think he did. You're the one pushing for him to dance with her so badly, which I thought was like an interesting scene, but I'm like, he said no, man. Like he doesn't want to dance with your wife. Calm down.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the character motivation of the wife lying. I don't really understand the character motivation of Adrian Brody, uh, like actually trying to make a pass. So I don't because we don't know what really happens. It's one of those kind of moments where it seems like she's lying because we didn't see it, but it's possible it did happen and we just don't know. But
Hmm.
in either case, I don't understand the character motivation either way. Like, why would the wife lie? Is it because she doesn't want him there, reminding the cousin of his like old life of being like being Jewish because they're Protestant now or something? I just don't know.
Right. Yeah. So that didn't entirely click with me, although I did think that particular conversation when Kuzo cuts him off, I thought it was very compellingly lit. And
Yeah,
then
looks great.
the performance Brody gives once he realized, like, oh wow, this one thing that is anchoring me to home, like this family that I have here in America, now has literally just cut me loose, and now I gotta figure out what I'm doing. I thought
Hmm.
he played that extremely well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I wish they had like created more of a dislike on the wife's part, like at least subtly, because it didn't even feel like she disliked Adrian Brody. I wish I just
mhm.
understood more why she would lie, because then at least it would make sense, and I could connect those dots, and I could be satisfied with that part of the story and move on, and not be like, "What just happened? Why did that happen?" It felt like one of those things where they wanted to get Adrian Brody on his own so that he could be like really going through it before he becomes the master architect he becomes later in the movie, and their story point to do that was just the wife is going to lie, but we're not going to do the work to show why she would lie. I don't know.
Mm,
They do like a little bit. I mean, they mention. I mean, in the fight that he has with his brother, they talk about him being like a Protestant now, and like him not wanting to be there, reminding him of that past. Like I can understand. I understand that. Or I guess they talk about it later. He talks about it later with Erzsébet of why he doesn't see his cousin anymore and why they don't talk.
hmm.
But I don't know because the cousin is like he's doing like a wonderful thing for Adrian Brody's character. He's housing him and giving him a job and like trying to help him get his life back after such horrible circumstances have happened to him. He's like doing a very kind and wonderful thing for his cousin. I just don't know why he would change up so quickly and do something so cold.
Right. So yeah, that didn't quite hit in the way that I wish it would have.
Yeah.
But like I said, once we got to that section where Guy Pearce re-enters it, um, like then I was plugged in. Like that was a very fascinating
Hmm.
turn that they have there, and now it's like, oh, it seems like Laszlo's favors have turned up. Like he's got good fortune now. He's going to have Van Buren effectively helping to fund this massive project that Van Buren wants to do in memory of his mother.
Hmm.
But he's essentially giving like carte blanche to Laszlo to just make like art, like get back into it and do something that he'll have free reign over. And of course, it becomes more complicated than that. But I thought
Hmm.
the build up to that, like the conversation that he has with him before he takes everyone out up to the hill and like announces the Van Buren Institute. That conversation where he's just talking about, oh yeah, my mom's parents were like terrible to her and had nothing to do with me. But once they found out I had money, they essentially wanted to get back in my good graces. And then just tells like how he was stringing them along, basically like playing a game with them. Um, like I just thought it was such a fascinating way for him to talk through the power trip and the ego that he has now. Like he's definitely someone that is lacking Laszlo's like creativity and genuine genius,
Hmm.
but he has money, and so that means he's far more powerful. And so when he has the chance to exercise that power, he's going to. And even in that situation where it's like, well, we don't really know, but if those grandparents were genuinely just like being awful to the mother, then yeah, it's very presumptive of them, and we would feel the same way of like, why should I help you out when you haven't helped me out in any way? You're just
Hmm.
trying to use me. You don't actually care about me. Um, so we can like be on his side in that sense, but clearly he's like getting off on the fact that he was able to like get some measure of revenge against them, which just speaks to again his like state of mind in general. So I thought
Hmm.
that conversation was great, and especially when he started asking Laszlo about like his artistic process, basically like why does he do what he does. Um, I thought it was very compelling. Um, do you have any thoughts on that scene in particular, or on that like pairing of Adrian Brody's Laszlo and Guy Pearce's Van Buren overall?
I was definitely locking in a little more than I had been like leading up to that moment. I think for me, the brief parts of him living in that work like YMCA type place and working in that coal mine, coal factory of some kind. I think it was one of the better slow moments, but it wasn't as compelling as like the grander moments, I suppose, that we come to later in the story. So I was kind of like fading in and out of interest, especially because of the disappointment of like how the cousin storyline kind of ends. Uh, I definitely like started to lock in more when they were having that discussion because it just felt more like an intimate moment where I'm learning more about these characters finally, about how they think, about how they interact, about how they see other people. And it's the conversation that sort of defines their relationship for the rest of the film of Van Buren is this character who looks up to Laszlo in a way because he is artistic in a way that he can't be and has a fascinating mind that he wants to learn more about, but then simultaneously, like paradoxically, looks down upon him because he is not as wealthy and like takes forceful pity upon him because he's like, oh, you are this great mind, but you are nothing compared to me in like the world in terms of social class and like stature. how can such a great mind be so far beneath me? I take pity upon you, and then gives him this project of like designing his mother's large building to dedicate to the community, gives it to him to, and in a sense sort of owns him at that point.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's very telling because, again, with the story of the grandparents, he scoffs at them wanting to use Van Buren and
Mhm.
his wealth. But with Laszlo, like we see that their relationship is definitely transactional in a way. Like he doesn't want to be used for his wealth, but he wants to be depended upon and wants to make sure Laszlo knows like you work it at my bidding, basically. And so,
Mhm.
like, very quickly, without even really asking Lasso, like, they don't even give him a ride back to his home. They're just like, yeah, well, the driver went to sleep. There's the guest house for you. Go ahead and sleep there. Like, they already just make it a done deal. Um, and
You belong to
essentially,
him. You're his
yeah, like
property now.
we own you now. And so we're giving this great opportunity and a place to live and money and a great project to work on, but it's all from me. So again, you'll depend entirely on me and I get to decide like the course of your life from here on out. If
Yeah.
on a whim I want to cut you loose, or if financial troubles with the project become too much, and then we need to cut you as like a cost
Mhm.
saving measure. So yeah, it's like a very twisted relationship that they have to have. But again, Lazo's doing it partially because it is such a great opportunity for him. He thinks that'll allow him to
Mhm.
carve out his space and have a stable life here. But then it's also because, well, Van Buren has connections. And so he knows people that work in like the vice president's office, and then they'll be able to fast track bringing over Laszlo's family. So that's like a whole nother aspect to it as well of I need these people in order to, bring over my family. Um, and so I think, yeah, just that whole uh, twisted, warp sort of relationship there was really nicely rendered out. um, I want to ask you about the family, like because the whole first half, like we get to the intermission and Elizabeth is not there, and then
Mhm.
the niece Sophia is not there either. So
Yeah,
once we come
I got
back,
to the intermission. I hadn't seen Felicity Jones once, and I was like, I see now why she's in the best actress in supporting role category. Because you and I both thought she was going to go gun for like a leading role nomination, but I see
mhm,
now she's definitely like a supporting character, but in like a fantastic way for sure. Adrian Brody is taking the lead 100% here, and Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce are both there to support that performance, to support the movie itself, and they both do fantastic jobs as supporting characters.
indeed. But yeah, I thought it was compelling. We come back from the intermission and it's building up to this big happy reunion, and then as a surprise to Laszlo and then to the audience as well, she is in a wheelchair. So it's something she hadn't brought up in any of the like correspondence that they had beforehand. And so obviously it's like it is still happy of a reunion because they're seeing each other for the first time in years. I don't
Mm,
remember how many years it was, but like a long, long time.
mm,
But now it's like clouded with this bit of sadness because they're still carrying the like literal pain from everything they experienced in Europe from the war and from the Holocaust and everything. Like because of her being starved, now she's unable to walk. So it's like that terrible revelation there.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I just thought it was a compelling way to just flip things on its head. Like we have
yeah, definitely crazy.
what should be again something where we rejoice at, and then with Elizabeth and then with Sophia as well, she's completely mute, just like will not speak at all.
Mm,
um, and so yeah, I thought it was interesting how like again everything's seeming to turn up at that point, but then there's these added complications even once they finally are able to be reunited. um, so yeah, I thought that was compelling. What did you think about the overall approaches to the characters there and like their place in the second half of the story?
I liked dividing it in the way I like where it cut off. I think that
Mhm.
was a very very strong choice that they made, and I think the second half definitely. I like that the first half exists to establish Adrian Brody's character, establish his dynamic with Guy Pearce, establish the story of the movie that he's going to build this great building, and then the second half can be dedicated to how Erzsébet and Zsófia fit into that image, and then how their whole identity as Jewish people, as non-Americans, sort of fit into this new world that they're in, and like the work that he's doing. That's that he like starts to come about in what becomes a negative way at that point, where he is interacting with these people and they are looking at him differently, and he is not fitting in with the people there, especially in the long, long sequence they have of the ribbon cutting ceremony, or the breaking ground ceremony, I should say, where they do the initial breaking ground, and they start to they split off, and Zsófia is approached by Guy Pearce's son, which I want to get your thoughts on. Thoughts on Joe Alwyn in this movie, Guy Pearce's son.
At the very beginning, I thought he was very bad, but
Hmm.
as it progressed, I got used to it more, and I think it was a solid performance. But at the very beginning, it just felt so
Out
like
of
a
place.
caricature.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well, he's definitely trying to imitate his father, and like even his father is trying to imitate like a certain
Mhm.
affect of the aristocracy and everything. So I'm like, it ultimately works. I think.
Yeah. I wish I had more scenes of him interacting with Guy Pearce, because we mostly just see Joe Alwyn pop up and interact with Laszlo and his family. And I would like to have seen the Van Buren family all together interacting more. Just because I
Yeah.
think Joe Alwyn's character is one that has a lot of change that happens to his character, or not change, I should say, but is very dynamic in the story and becomes important as the story goes on. And I just wish I knew more about him as a character and understood him better, because later on we'll get to it. He makes some character choices that I think, or the character makes choices that I think are a little bold and a little
Hmm.
out of place, I would say. And I think the same goes for Guy Pearce's character as well. Eventually starts to make choices that I think are conflicting with what I know of the character up until that point.
Right.
But uh, I think that those scenes of the groundbreaking ceremony right after the intermission uh, is Joe Alwyn's strongest point in the movie, where we see his character the most, and he's interacting with Zsófia, he interacts with Laszlo and insults him to his face, which is
Hmm.
again just a bold choice. And you can see that obviously he looks down upon them as people, and that is definitely something that nobody enjoys, let alone somebody who is a survivor of the Holocaust and an immigrant into a new country. Is definitely something that is most unwelcoming. And Adrian Brody can clearly be seen reacting harshly, and this is kind of the tipping point of, okay, now he's aware that he's being seen as the other. He's aware that he's being seen as a property, and he does not like this. He just wants to focus on his family and focus on finishing this piece of art that he's designed, that he wants done his way and no other way, not the American way, not the Van Buren way, the Laszlo way. He wants it to be done exactly as he's designed, and he does not want to interact. And this is what is the most compelling portion of the movie for me, is right after the intermission, when we have Laszlo just building his piece of art. We have those big wide shots of the all the cranes working on the construction that looks fantastic up on that big hillside, all backlit by the setting sun. I think looks fantastic. All of the designs of the work being done, the big pits that they're walking through, all of the construction going on. I just am so interested in Adrian Brody's character's dedication to this piece of art and to the art itself of architecture, and the self destructiveness with which he gives his attention to it, and as well as his own like heroin addiction, of course. That is all very fascinating to me. So watching him design the model before the intermission and then immediately following the intermission, all of those scenes of construction and the obstacles he has to face dealing with the bureaucracy of like American politics and American corporate powers and how they be, and then the American desire to very much save money and be stingy wherever they can, and him having to sacrifice a good chunk of his profits in order to secure that the building is done exactly as he designed, by basically lowering the floor since they're trying to cut off the ceiling, and it's already been designed to cut off the ceiling. So he pays what, $10,000, which in that time is a lot of money, to just essentially lower the floors by significant amount of, maybe even more money than that, but to lower it like 10 feet just to have the
Hmm.
massive ceilings that he wanted. all of that like pure dedication and like Urzabet standing by him and supporting him that entire time, I think is compelling for me to watch. I enjoyed that a lot.
Gotcha. All right, let's talk about where things went off the rails.
Yes, please.
So, where was it for you? Was it that Italy trip when a certain decision gets made?
Yeah, absolutely. That's from
Okay.
that point to the end of the movies where I go, what is going on? Because the Italy trip, the first half of it is, I think, maybe my favorite part of the movie, where they're initially there and they meet the marble master and they're climbing up the mountain and they're viewing like the pinnacle of art and architecture, the chiseled earth itself, designed by God, that they're viewing as the ultimate architecture, this like pure white marble in all of its glory. And I think Laszlo bringing Guy Pearce there, who is this individual who, as much as he would enjoy, from an artistic standpoint, just I don't think he fully understands the overwhelming beauty and breadth of this marble to the fullest extent, in the same way that Laszlo and the Italian marble master kind of understand it. I think him bringing him there is what leads to that decision that gets made, later on in the Italy trip, where I think Guy Pearce has the desire to regain control over Laszlo in a way. Uh,
Hmm.
I just, first off, I didn't really know what had happened because it's a wide shot, and I'm like, I could kind of tell what happens, but I'm like, I can't. I mean, obviously, I can't see anything. I'm just guessing here. I don't want to guess. But then later in the movie, they make it very clear what had happened. Why do you
Right.
think? It's very big spoiler here if you haven't seen the Bros. We've already been spoilers, but this is like the biggest spoiler of the movie. Why does Guy Pearce assault Adrian Brody in this movie? Why?
Again, I
Is
think
it is it
it's.
is it purely like a very very literal physical metaphor for power and control? Is that all it
I think
is?
so. I think that's what
Do
it
you think
was.
it is taking it too far and making it too unsubtle? A movie
Yeah,
that
I
has
think it was a bit
been,
clumsy to do
yeah,
because, c- yeah, again, like maybe that could happen. Like maybe that's a thing that goes on. Because again, I mean, we see there are like sexual abuse in real life can just be an extension of someone wanting to have like power over another person.
of course.
It may not actually be like sexually, like a sexual desire. It's just more of that again wanting to have power over someone. But I just don't. What we had known of that character up to this point, I just don't think that that would be in the cards for him.
It just seems
I
so out of the
feel
blue.
like there's just other ways that he would approach exercising power over Lasso that he would feel would be like more effective.
Yeah,
Um, and again, like we know he clearly is like trying to maintain a certain image of himself, and again, like come off as a smart, intelligent man uh, that has all this money and capital and wealth and influence. Like he wants to be essentially the standard bearer of like the American dream in a certain way, and I don't know. I feel like, and again, he was drunk there presumably, and so who knows how much that influenced things, but I just don't fully buy that a character like that would um, use that as like his
yeah.
primary method of regaining power over Laszlo in this moment. Um, so yeah, it was a choice, very obviously again of like this man representing the capitalist machine doing this to a an artist, especially one that's like suffering and has a lot of issues. Again, like he is currently like putting heroin into his body right there. He has all this trauma from the war. Like so much is going on there. He's an immigrant as well. So like just a literal representation of how that massive system can just attack and abuse and defile a person like that. I just don't know. Yeah, it was hard to watch. It definitely like gave the intended impact, but
I was confused.
it
I was just very
wasn't.
very confused.
Yeah, because I saw him start to look around, like look around the alley, and I was like, what are we about? And then he starts like undoing his belt basically, and I was like, this. I just don't know that we need this. Um, and then it becomes such a major plot point later on because after that point, we see
They
them like
drop it
walking
for
out.
yeah, they drop it, and it's as if it didn't even happen,
Yeah,
which I think
but
is also the intended purpose of like this is something traumatizing and shameful, embarrassing for Adrian Brody. Like he's obviously has incredibly like an incredibly horrible experience in that moment, and obviously perhaps doesn't even trust his own memory because he is very much high on heroin and probably drunk at the same time. He's passed out like laying on the ground in that alleyway. It's possible he just is like mistrustful of what he's even thinking. Like there's so many things that he's thinking of in that moment. That's something that we don't see him ever really talking about. We never see him talk about it to Urzabet until Urzabet brings it up later in the movie when it becomes the bigger plot point. But it's like it feels weird to be something that's so monumental to happen to the characters and then gets dropped for a good 30 minutes before it comes back again in the movie.
mhm. Yeah, and then it does come back around in a very big confrontation.
And Joe
Before
Alwyn
that
goes
point,
cray, bro.
he
Why does he
does.
throw her? Why does he
But
drag
before we
her?
get there, let's put a
Oh
pin in
my
that. Before we get
god.
there, the whole thing of like Laszlo needing to give heroin to Erzsébet because all her pills to like take the pain away from her condition are gone, and so he has to like administer heroin to
Mm-hmm.
her body. And then after that point is when possibly still when they're like high, both high maybe, is when
Mm-hmm.
they're rekindling their uh, intimacy, which that was like a subplot throughout the entire film, which I found pretty compelling. Um, he's not able like his first act when he gets to America is like visit a brothel basically, but he's not
Mm-hmm.
able to get an erection. And then we see later, like right before he gets attacked by Van Buren, he is dancing with some girl, but like walks away from her. And so like continually he's has the opportunity or like wants to seek out like these physical relationships with people. And then even when his wife comes back, like he's not able to actually like consummate anything there. But then once this happens and they're both like high off their rockers, they're able to do that. I thought it was a just a compelling, like interesting choice there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
also when I guess he's able to open up to her finally about what had happened. Um, And so I don't know. I think that's just something they sort of offer without additional commentary there. But
Yeah.
them being like brought to this like very low place, and having to again pump themselves full of some external substance into their
Mm-hmm.
system to finally be able to like meet each other and communicate these dark issues that they have, or just dark things they've experienced. I don't know. It was a compelling thing to bring up. Um, but yeah, so Joe Alwyn dragging her out of the
Dude,
dining room.
crazy. What
That
an
was
outrageous
insane.
reaction.
Yeah, like truly bizarre. Yeah, that whole thing. I again is a very like climactic moment. I just don't know that any of it registered as like what these people would do. Like none of it seems
That's what I'm
like
saying,
what
man.
anyone would actually do in that situation.
But what is the intended effect, do you think? What are they trying to get you to feel? Is it supposed to feel like the retribution of like you like the abused rising up against the powerful
I guess
in whatever way
so.
they can, speaking truth to power?
I guess so. And I suppose it kind of works because again, Van Buren disappears from this story.
Why?
Presumably, he
Why?
died, committed suicide after that. Which again, I just don't buy that would happen. Like he would just
Yeah,
immediately say, "You're,"
he did.
which
He
he did.
immediately
He was
he
like,
did.
"Your
He said you're
husband's
crazy.
a
Your
drug addict.
husband's
He's
a drug
crazy."
addict. Yeah,
Blah blah blah.
and would
Um,
absolutely get away with it in high society
exactly. He would just do
in
that. He
that
would
time
say that
period. Yeah,
and
he would
say like, "You're
100% get
gone.
away with it.
Get out of here." But he
People
wouldn't
get
let
away
his
with those
son do that.
accusations nowadays, let alone back in the 40s when you are a wealthy aristocrat and the person accusing you is a drug addict who was an immigrant. Like, he would get away with it. The
Yeah.
aristocracy always wins. I don't know
Yeah.
why he would feel compelled to kill himself.
Exactly. And so that if that overwhelmed him so much, then we needed more,
The
I feel
power of
like
Christ,
there.
I guess, which is why they end on the cross.
I feel like we needed more to understand why again, just like that being aired out, and even when he denies it, he still feels so overwhelmed by whatever the shame, the guilt, the like losing the control over the situation that he would need to end it all. I just that didn't click for me. Again, it's one of those things of the lessons just deny, deny, deny. Like that's exactly what he would do in that situation.
Yeah.
And as you said, just get away with it. So again, the search for him I thought was compelling, especially from a visual standpoint, but it just from the narrative standpoint, it did not fully mesh together. Let's talk about the epilogue real quick
Yeah.
as well. So a very big diversion from the style that the rest of the film had, especially just the score alone. Uh, we are going through Italy here, and then it is like a almost techno like
Yeah.
club type
It's the
score.
80s.
I mean, it's the 80s, but I was like, interesting.
It definitely changes the vibes drastically immediately.
It changes the vibes, and then even
Do you think it's
um,
successful, or do you think it's too jarring?
I don't quite think it's successful, but I think it's also
Okay.
meant to be a bit like jarring. It's meant to be discordant from the rest of it because they have very obvious like PowerPoint transitions here and there, and then it also there's an image like on Sophia. She's giving a speech where it's meant to be like a digital camcorder type thing almost.
Mm.
Um, I guess not camcorder, but just not in the vein of what the rest of the visual style was. And then she's giving the whole speech on like his past works, and then the Van Buren Institute particularly, and we get more insight into that, which I thought was pretty nice. And then the final statement, which is her quoting uh, Laszlo himself, saying that no matter what anyone tells you, it's the destination that matters, not the journey. So, what do you think of all that? What do you make of this ending point?
Uh, I don't. It's hard to say, um, because we don't see the destination. We don't see him complete the building. We don't see him grow old with. I guess we do see the destination, which is him being an old ass man in Italy, watching this presentation. And I guess we do skip most of the journey to get there.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I guess it's the quintessential American dream of like how you get to being successful and how you get to being like well recognized doesn't matter as much as getting there itself. You know, I don't know if that's a
Right.
positive thing. I don't know if it means he's been tainted by the American system. I I don't know. I think the most successful portion of that epilogue is the middle of the speech where they're describing the Van Buren Institute itself, and they give insights into like why it's designed the way that it is, and they talk about how Laszlo was designing it as a connection between his prison camp and Urzhebet's prison camp, and the tunnels underneath are supposed to be like tunnels that they could reach to each other. I think is like a beautiful way to describe that, and deeply romantic and thoughtful. And I wish more attention was given to that portion than other portions, because I think designing the building to look that way and having that be the revelation of why so, I think is very poetic.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was definitely great to learn because
Hmm.
it gives more understanding to why he fought so hard for his vision. Because we know
Why?
it's not just him like being pure ego. It's like, oh, this matters to him. He never really says why during those like
Yeah.
debates. He just
And I
pulls the
like
like
learning
I'm the
that like
designer
the
card.
reason he wanted those tall ceilings, the reason why he paid so much money to lower the floors was because he wanted to give that impression of the prison camps, but with these stretching ceilings to the sky, giving this illusion of freedom. You know, this feeling of
Hmm.
being able to fly away. I think that was also very poetic.
Yeah, which is very lovely. But yeah, that final statement. Um, I'm just curious of because the way I took it was like they're saying that, but it's coming across hollow because we saw not the entirety of it, but a whole lot of his journey there, and it was just riddled with a lot of pain and suffering there, and ultimately, which I wasn't quite clear if Lazo did actually leave the U.S. because we know Javia does, we know Erzsébet does, but we don't know if Lazo also left ultimately. But that was my assumption, was that he did in fact leave,
Mm-hmm.
and so the institute got completed at the end. But I don't think he would have needed to be in the U.S. for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So like he does all that, is able to finally have that institute standing there to this day. So that's the destination, at least for one of his pieces of art. But the whole journey to like get there, where he ultimately had to like just leave, or at least his family left. Again, the whole point of that first act, the first, I guess, full part, was trying to get his family to America to be with him, and then they all leave by the end of the second part. It Was it worth it? Like that's the question there. And so my takeaway is that it's asking that exact question, and we're not meant to be like, oh yeah, it totally was. But from a certain standpoint, uh, like his family's already gone. He's on his like deathbed basically as well. But then that monument to his life, to his love for Erzsébet, is going to stand the test of time and will outlast certainly Van Buren, if he did in fact kill himself there or died another way, and survives on beyond the pain of everything that he experienced to make that building happen. So that would be a question I'd be curious about,
Mm-hmm.
which way they actually wanted people to take it, because you certainly can argue like either point. But at least for me, I took it as like, well, it's there. The building for sure is there, but to most people that walk through it that don't have the context for it, either like why he did it or all the pain that went into it, like does that really matter to them? Like, yeah, it stands the test of time, but without this PowerPoint presentation delivered by the niece of the architect itself, did it actually matter? I don't know. It's an interesting way to end it all off, and then a crazy needle drop at the end of like this upbeat song as well. So I know, again, a very compelling film, but I don't know that it worked on all levels all the time throughout its behemoth runtime.
Agreed.
But do you have any other final thoughts before we give our rating?
None whatsoever. You?
The shot of the train, where we just
Great.
continually go up and up and up and get that massive aerial, and then we see the fireball and then the train like derailing. I thought that was beautiful. So I wanted to
Yeah.
give a shout out to that
Magnificent.
before we closed out. So, how many intellectually stimulating conversations out of 5?
I want you to go first.
I'm giving it a 3.5.
Okay. I think I'm also going to give it a 3.5. I was giving it a 4 initially because I think it is grand in a lot of ways. I think it is a spectacle. I think it is massively impressive. But I think talking to you for the last hour and being reminded of all the things that I thought were hard to get past, especially that last 45 minutes where I'm just so confused and so uh, bewildered at a lot of those character choices. Yeah, I think it's definitely a 3.5.
All
I
right.
do
So, there,
want to see it one more time. I want to see it in like a good theater setting. I want to experience it one more time. But I don't know if I ever see myself watching it again after that.
dang. Well, let me know your thoughts once you have that second viewing.
Yep.
But yeah, for now, for me, I'll rest at a 3.5, which is
Mhm.
still a positive score for sure.
Yeah.
But again, not quite hitting that masterpiece levels.
I was hoping to be a 5 out of 5, man.
Me too. I was hoping for it.
Yeah.
I was looking for spots to fill up on my top 10, and we'll see where this one lands, but certainly not
Yeah.
at the top.
Certainly not. Anyway, that is all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofficeshowpod@gmail.com.
Our main title theme for the show is Sundown by Joseph McDade.
If you like the show, please give us 5 stars, whatever podcast app you're listening to. Be sure to tune in next week. Have a great rest of your day.